Hey everyone, welcome to Bombin in the AM with Scoops and the Wolf. Even though Alex and I technically have today off of work, but when you don't check to see you have a day off work, are you really allowed to take a day off work?
I mean, yes. The answer to that question is yes. You are, in fact, still allowed to take that day off from work. But considering we had already scheduled things for this Monday morning, like idiots that we are, we decided, why not? Just go ahead with it. Let's just do it. Fuck it. Why not?
Yeah, so fortunately, we are still able to have a morning show today, joined by Alex, and also, all the way from Seattle, Zoe Quinn, designer of Depression Quest, who is out in Seattle right now for the recently finished Steam Dev Day. So thanks for joining us, Zoe.
Happy to be here, Patrick.
I like that. I like your very earnest response to that. Just really happy to be here, happy to be invited.
I may have just chugged a latte, so very happy about everything right now.
Excellent. This should go well.
Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter if you're launching a pizza into space. You're gonna be happy about it.
Would you not be happy about launching a pizza into space? Really?
You're right. You're right. I didn't mean to call into question the prospect of a pizza slice being sent into space.
Is the greater hope that someone traveling through space will then find said pizza and then eat it, or what's the goal there?
Man, I don't know. What's the science of a pizza slice going through the atmosphere on its way out? I feel like that would do gnarly things to a pizza.
Well, you see, since it's shaped like a triangle, it's aerodynamic.
Okay.
And it then turns into frozen pizza, and that's what you buy in grocery stores when it comes back down to Earth. I have
Holy
no
shit.
idea.
I've been eating space pizza the whole time?
Vacuum frozen pizza.
Damn. Learning things. See, this is why we have guests on, to inform us of these subtle nuances in life that I just don't know. I just don't know anything about because I just stay in all day and I play Dark Souls, and I don't leave the house. I just play Dark Souls, and that's just my life right now. Alex, did you play anything this weekend?
Not a whole lot. I mostly dedicated my weekend to football, as one does when one is into that sort of thing. But I did play some Broken Age. Finally got started in on that. Played through the girls section of her storyline, and I gotta say, despite the fact that everyone kept telling me, "Wow, this is a really great point-and-click adventure game," I did not sit there and actually ponder how much of a point-and-click adventure game that was going to be before I actually started in on it, which is not a bad thing. It's fine. It was just sort of like, oh wow, this is really a point-and-click adventure game. They just made that, and obviously those guys are good at making those kinds of games. So what I've played of it so far, I've enjoyed quite a lot, especially for kind of the visuals and the dialogue and stuff, which is what everyone's kind of been celebrating about that game. I would probably agree that so far the puzzles have seemed a little on the simple side, but not bad by any stretch. And what I have played of it thus far, I've actually really liked. So,
is there a part of it that when you mentioned being like, oh, this is an adventure game? Like, is there an aspect of that genre that you had sort of forgotten about that was kind of triggered?
The whole, you were presented with an area and you have to go through different sections of that area to find the items you have to combine to get to the next solution kind of thing. I haven't played one of those games in probably at least a couple of years, or at least like a real serious one. So, the whole, the mechanics of point-and-click puzzles where there are a lot of disparate elements that you have to kind of piece together and put into, the proper solutions was not necessarily what I was expecting, but I don't even know what I was expecting going into that game. I kind of read as much or as little as possible about it because I kind of wanted to be surprised by it, and I was, but pleasantly. So, I've been digging it.
Well, it seems like, we call Telltale games, Telltale games. We call them adventure games, but when we think of traditional point-and-click adventure game, which is sort of a lot of where that term comes from, it involves a great many nuances that just aren't present in the games that Telltale makes these days. Telltale has, in The Walking Dead and The Wolf Among Us, there are elements of that stuff, but it has been stripped down and simplified to the point that I guess it doesn't shock me too much that you would suddenly be like, oh wait, this is how one of these goes when you actually
I mean, other than that train puzzle in Walking Dead Season 1, which was kind of like that, there really wasn't very much of that in any of those, and The Wolf Among Us doesn't really have much of that either. So, yeah, it was just sort of like an immediate reminder of, oh, right, that's how these games go, but not in a bad way, because, I mean, the worst of that genre could get really up its own ass with trying to make those things kind of, opaque and difficult to deal with. This game, it does not do that at all, as far as I can tell. So I've had no problem with it thus far. And man, it is gorgeous. That is a fucking gorgeous looking game.
Yeah, that is. I think that is the impression it leaves right away, and I'm looking forward to like some day in the future where I'm done with Dark Souls and then I play other games. Like it's unclear when that day will be. I'm hoping it might be at the end of today. After we conclude this show, I'm planning on using the rest of my day off to just like. I looked at a FAQ and I'm in like the last sixth of that game. So that could mean a whole lot of things. That could be like another 15 hours for all I know. But I'm at least there is an end in sight. Like it's off in the distance. It's full of yelling and swearing and other horrible nightmares. But I'm making progress. But I mostly played that this weekend. But I also I played Spelunky while the football games were happening on Sunday. That's kind of my MO. Is that when I'm not doing the daily stuff on the site. That I play the Vita version on the couch and just kind of experiment with different techniques that I'm too scared to try when I'm actually being watched by a bunch of people. And I managed to beat Olmec.
Experimental Spelunky.
Yeah, it's pretty gross. Like I don't want to get into the details, but some of my techniques after I hung out with Dave Lang and he showed me how to play Spelunky, it gets weird real fast.
Yeah, I would think so.
So, one of the paths to finish Spelunky is to beat Olmec, who is kind of the traditional first boss that you can run into and trigger an end state for the game. And I managed to do that, which for most people who play Spelunky hardcore merely is when you've proven that you have a fundamental grasp of the mechanics. And then the real game begins to go after Yama, who is the secret second boss, that you can't even access the area that he's in except to get to the first boss and ride the first boss down to a secret elevator or a secret room as he is dying. It's ridiculous. So I'm not looking forward to doing that at all. Which is to say, I'm really looking forward to doing all of that. But Zoe, you're in Seattle, and it is early morning, and you're getting ready to fly back home because you were there for the Steam Dev Days, a 2-day conference. The first of what I assume will be an annual thing going forward where they'll get a bunch of developers together to, do a bunch of stuff that you can't really tell us about. But how was the experience of going out to like this very specific sort of Steam-focused conference?
It was pretty cool. It's always good to be surrounded by a bunch of talented game developers. That's sort of the thing that it's a thing that sort of recharges me as a developer, and I always find that I come away with it with new contacts, new potential collaborators, and new ideas. And it was really cool to be able to get more focused info on, since now that I'm working with Steam to put a game on it, it's pretty good to have a bit more technical info and depth, and being able to have people to talk to about possibly, hey, if I have questions about how to do this, is that cool? How could I do that? Because Steam's always been very helpful anytime I've had to talk to them about anything at all. So it's been pretty cool. Yeah.
It seems like that, things like GDC, things like Steam Dev Days, like, whatever you get out of the information that's actually presented there, like obviously that's useful for one reason or another, but it's that experience of getting together with folks and actually like we mentioned when we started the video call of like, oh cool, now we've at least seen each other's faces in a way that isn't a Twitter avatar. It's actually connecting with folks that we talk with, we have so many friends online these days, but it's things like those conferences that give us a chance to actually meet with those folks and kind of connect.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, honestly, I feel bad for saying this, but I spent a lot more time talking with other designers and developers than I did actually going to talks. It's kind of a thing that ends up happening, and I didn't feel too bad because I'm going to be able to look back on stuff later and ask other people who did go what happened. But these events are always really good for. I always come away from them feeling really excited, and that's why. There's terms like post-GDC depression is a commonly thrown term around where if you say it to another developer, they probably know exactly what you mean. just because you end up surrounded by these amazing, talented people who get what you do and are similarly crazy because we all work entirely too hard and all the frickin' time. It's just so cool and beneficial to be surrounded by people like that get it.
Yeah, and I imagine, there's certainly this feeling that what technology allows us these days is to do so much, sort of remotely or from any place. You can collaborate with folks in all different parts of the world, and you can kind of get away from, to the traditional idea of having to be around all those people all the time in order to make things or be friends with people. But you definitely realize when you have those conferences or those moments when you get to come together and actually like connect with those folks, like what exactly you do totally miss by not being in the same room with those people at the same time.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, I've made games with people before without ever having met them, and then like ended up meeting them at things like this and being like, oh my god, we made a thing together. It's pretty weird that we're just meeting now. Like, I've never high-fived you properly for that. Let's do that. And things like it can go in reverse. It's like there are things that don't get communicated over the internet. And sometimes when you meet face-to-face, you're like, somebody you've kind of talked to, you get talking to in some context like this, and it's like, oh my god, you're actually really, really cool.
You're a cool person. This is great. This works out.
Yeah, thank you for just being randomly awesome, because like, we've only ever talked in the PR, oh, hello, I am so-and-so, this is what I do. Oh, I'm so-and-so, this is what I do. But once like it's 5 in the morning and you've been up for 3 days straight, and like the silly conversations start happening, you can find out you had something really cool in common with someone you were only aware of as an acquaintance before that. So that's always really cool.
I guess the question that one of them I'd have to ask, because it's kind of the question that a lot of folks that haven't had a chance to check one out, is that you were there at the Dev Days. We know that you got one of them Steam controllers, as did a bunch of other developers. Like, what do you think of that thing? Have you had a chance to kind of mess with that at all and sort of form any sort of opinion about it?
This thing?
Ah, you monster!
I guess that thing.
Oh, huh. No, I've never seen one in my life. I don't know what you're talking about.
No opinion whatsoever.
No opinion whatsoever. I haven't gotten to screw around with it much, so I don't feel like I can really give an opinion on that. But I'm really looking forward to being able to come away from this and have things to mess with.
So where are you at in the sort of, you had Depression Quest go through the Greenlight process, which, that whole process, could be even its own conversation, but where are you at in terms of sort of getting the game prepped to go on Steam? Like, what actually has to occur there for you to feel comfortable, kind of putting that game up there?
Well, it's tricky because there's no established roadmap for specifically the port that I have to do, because it's not like I just I have an executable file or something that I can just slap an API into with say it was a Unity game. There's like 1,000 Unity people I can talk to that'd be like, oh yeah, we've been through this. Here's what you do here. This is a problem you might hit here. But there hasn't been a Twine game on Steam before, so I'm kind of sort of trying to figure that out, how the best way to do that is, and trying to rigorously document everything that works, that doesn't work, so that whoever comes next might have an easier time. But there's like a couple different ways I'm looking at doing it, and well, the reason I haven't really set a launch date yet is I want to make sure I can find the best one, and I've also got several translations in the works, so there's going to be more languages, which will also be retroactively added to the web-based version, and a couple accessibility improvements to make sure that people who might be low-sighted have a decent time with putting screen readers on it. Various just accessibility and language, and I'd like to add a little bit more polish too, just because anytime I come back to any game I've worked on ever, I'm like, oh, I should just do this.
Well, it's never done. You just decide, oh man, I just need to put this thing out so I can work on something else. Yeah,
or because it's good enough, because like perfect is the enemy of good, right? So
right.
You can mess with something forever, and then, oh, hey, look, you have this thing that's hypothetically really cool, then we'll never see the light of day.
Hey, that's what screwed over Chinese democracy, man. He just wouldn't let it go, and then, look what that turned into. So I'm just saying.
It's a slippery slope. Is it that temptation that you talk about to go and kind of tinker and mess with something, like, is that a little bit greater now that, like, you kind of put it out, people responded to it, and now you're doing this port where you've got to kind of like re-examine it, and you're translating it, like you're kind of looking at it in totality, in addition to sort of like the emotional hump that you and your team went through to get that game even on this service and to get it to this place. Like, do you find that there's a greater desire to go in there or to look at things and be like, we really need to change this, this didn't work, like our players didn't respond to this part, like as you go through the porting part?
Actually, not even a little. It's tricky because like this game is such a product of the time that I made it. Like, I made this game because I didn't get a job at a game studio that I thought I was going to get, that it seemed like I was going to get because of some legal stuff where it's like, oh, you seem to be kind of high risk, and like I had invested a long time into that. I just moved to Boston, so I didn't like know anybody. I was actually the day that I made the trailer, I had gotten sort of fired from my crappy minimum wage coffee house job and had pneumonia and wasn't sure what I was going to do because I basically got fired because I wanted to go to the doctor. America!
Yeah.
And yeah, so I went home and I made a trailer where if you look close, you can see that my eyes are red. Like, that's not fake, right?
No makeup, no stage makeup, no Tom Savini coming in and doing up your eyes?
You weren't doing a bit.
Yeah, right? Like, it was as much concept of trying to communicate an interesting trailer type thing through, because nobody wants to watch a video of interactive fiction, to try and sort of communicate the concept, as well as I thought it was really important for me to be incredibly, sort of, I guess a weird thought, but aggressively vulnerable and aggressively honest about all this, and as well as kind of calling myself out of my own BS and setting a date. So it's like, that all is so incredibly personal and such a, like, I'm doing better now. And it's hard to go back to that. It's hard to revisit that. Like, going back and editing these passages where I remember I'd have to put them down for days because it would just spiral out and me writing and berating myself. It's like, going back to that is hard. It's really hard. Like, since finishing the game, I haven't wanted to look at it again, especially because this is my side project. I thought maybe 5 people would play it, and like, there's all this stuff, right? It's like it's the first game that was bigger than like a little jam game that I've ever shipped. So going back and messing with it is really hard. And like the chief complaints we've had about it were that, oh, the character's unrelatable because the person has like a significant other and a job and stuff like that, which was a calculated risk in designing the narrative that way. But we can't really examine how depression can impact those things and like take it away from somebody if we don't put it there in the first place.
Right.
As well as like trying to make sure that we communicate the fact that depression is a mental illness and not necessarily determined by the circumstances of your life. Like, having a girlfriend doesn't magically cure your brain chemistry. Oh my god.
Oh no! Wait, what's going? What, did Danny just start a bomb?
Die!
Oh god.
I like that. Is maybe Danny is there in the background, like just in case things get too serious, he can just play a funny sound effect and then just cut right through the tension.
Perfect.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
I was just going to comment on what you said, the last bit. I don't necessarily think that the notion that, you know, the character in that game has a girlfriend or, you know, a significant other and a job is, you know, inherently false, because, I mean, So I played the game, I have depression, and if anything, that kind of gave me a much more immediate sort of, like, personal, you know, connection to that, because that is the exact same situation I'm in. I have a job, I have a significant other who, you know, also suffers from depression, but at the same time, you know, sometimes has to deal with my bullshit on top of everything else. So, I mean, I guess maybe personally I don't even understand that criticism, because it's not like people who have depression are inherently incapable of, you know, achieving those basic life goals. It's that they sometimes have a hard time maintaining them. You know, it's a hard time keeping them going and not, you know, doing things to kind of self-destruct.
Exactly, and that's why I feel like it wasn't a failure. I mean, we're very open about the fact that we were not trying to say this is the definitive depression experience. It's not even my definitive depression experience. Like, I've had no luck with therapy and no luck with medication. Like, that just does not work for me. And it was, and like at the time I didn't really have the supportive partner. So actually sitting there and writing these encounters where the person, this fictional person, that was sort of like an amalgamation of things, was saying all the things that I wished I would hear. was like one of the hardest things to get through. So like I don't feel that was a failure though, and then like so I agree with you. It's just whenever you release something like this, everybody has an opinion, and
right.
And I think it's not wrong to see something that is that deeply personal and that deeply non-fictional in a way, and go and want it to have represented you better. Like I absolutely can sympathize with that, but at the same time, as a creator, it's also my story too. You know, it's an outstretched hand. It's not like the definitive experience, and it's funny because you never know how people are going to take that. And the other calculated risk was leaving the main character genderless, explicitly genderless, like not putting that in the game at all, and seeing that not really land. Like a lot of people just assume, even though like a queer lady wrote it, that I'm going for a straight white male, and it's just like,
right.
It's like I kind of feel really weird about the fact that people are, like, I've had one or two women contact me and be like, I couldn't empathize with the main character because this person was seeing a woman, and I guess I think that's icky, and it's like that really sucks. And I thought maybe I could put a selectable thing in there, and I'm like, no, actually, this is personal. It's a very explicitly personal game, and I don't think it's wrong to put a little bit of myself in there, and I don't think it's wrong for any artist to do that, right?
No, not at all. And I think if anything, that sort of heightens the experience, because if you're just building from non-experiences, then you're not going to get something that has as much impact as something that has actually personally touched and affected you. But if you're able to express that clearly in that form, that can have a real impact. And for me, it did.
I'm glad to hear that. It's just it's hard because, like, just the nature of the thing, you can't possibly even hope to encompass everybody's experiences.
Right.
Especially because it's like it's not like any one specific person gets depression. It's just it doesn't care about who you are, right? It just happens. Right. And that, I guess that was kind of one of the messages we wanted to relate to the game too. So I think that, like, not like pulling a punch, because that would be me pulling a punch, and you can't do that with personal games. I'd feel so freaking dishonest if I did, right?
Yeah.
And even when it was like writing an experience that wasn't personally like writing experiences where they had the super caring partner, or writing the experiences where they had even the sibling, it wasn't even like, that's still not being dishonest, because it's like in that circumstance, it's like examining what I wish I had. Those feelings are still 100% legitimate and 100% there. So it's like a tricky line to walk, but I just feel it's very important to. I feel like it would make me kind of full of shit if I was going to make this really, really personal and honest, soul-bearing type thing, and then pull punches at the last minute just because people don't want to empathize with certain orientations, or can't. Like I feel like that's kind of a thing we should just sort of try and move past.
I have to imagine that maybe some of the reason that you get like really strong emotional responses from people that say they can't empathize with the character or their situation based on however they looked at the game is also reflective of the fact that there just isn't that much stuff like this out there. Like, I think part of the reason Depression Quest hit, other than just being it's a good game and a very interesting an empathetic experience for folks that don't go through that personally. It's also just, it's not like there's a large body of work for folks to pull from. So I think part of the reason that maybe you see folks having an emotional response is because they find this thing, and then maybe they can invest themselves in it, because it's not like they have alternatives to go to click here to see depression-related video games that allow you to experience the thing that you go through every day, but that your chosen medium, the one that you prefer, basically doesn't ignore, but is certainly not a topic that video games touch on very seriously very often.
Honestly, I think that can kind of be a good thing, in that I hope, like, the best outcome for that is that somebody goes, I could do that better, or somebody goes, oh, that I want to tell my story now, and then they do. Like, I would love to see that. Like, if you don't, I would love for the takeaway to be like, hey, maybe the person that feels like I got it wrong, or that they had something more or different to say, I would absolutely love to see more games like it, more stories, because everybody's got at least one story in them that nobody else can tell. And God, if you're watching this and you want to make a game that's about your own experiences and you need help, please get in touch. My door is absolutely open, and I'd love to see more variety of everything in games, because it's just such a cool medium and everything is possible.
Be careful what you wish for, because now the sprawling open world depression game from EA is going to be coming next year, so watch out for that.
Huh. It's just a really flat plane, and that's all there is. It's a single-player MMO.
Yeah, it's a huge variety of characters, all just kind of standing around frowning.
One of the things that so I can credit them. Let me find it. Okay, yeah. Parallax Abstraction on Twitter asks, for Zoe, how did you go about learning Twine? Just self-taught and experimentation, or there are available learning resources to help folks that are just getting started?
Absolutely both. Like, one of the nicest things about Twine is that there is an immense community that likes to just put out all the things that they've learned at all times. And Anthropy has a great Twine resource that can teach you Twine in about half an hour. Porpentine's got a Twine resource repository with a bunch of links to source code, macros, all the kinds of things you could want. There's also Twine threads on Twitter that you can talk to. I'm working on putting together a database of developers and other games people that are open for questions and comments, and that you can just ask for help on Twitter. That should be out relatively soon, as well as like posting a bunch of links myself to just like helpful stuff like that as much as I can find. So start with those couples of things, and again, feel free to talk to me. I will yell at me on Twitter, and I'll send you some links. Yeah,
and also I think one of the things that I would point out to folks, like when I was on a flight to a conference last year, like I just made a quick Twine game about my experience just going there. It was just an experiment. Like it was nothing particularly ambitious, but one of the things I think that Twine is definitely starting to evolve in some interesting directions where you can do more than just text to it, and folks are adding a lot of like some sort of AV layers to it that almost give like Twine with production values. But I should express to folks that if you just if all you want to do is write, like just doing that part of building a Twine game could not be easier. Like it is literally drag and drop and like going in and fiddling with a few basic menus. And so if you just have a story you want to express, and then maybe you look at some of these and like you're getting into some of the more advanced ways of enhancing the experience, like just the writing part is not difficult. It is literally something you can pick up in about 5 minutes and then start figuring out how to express your story. And at some point, like then you actually have to figure out like how you want to express it in the way that Twine allows you to do that, which I definitely found to be certainly the most challenging part of that is kind of the formatting, as that becomes sort of the design or mechanic of whatever you're trying to express, is exactly how people go about clicking on it and sort of the journey they go through there.
Yeah, and I think that Twine's a very interesting tool, if nothing else, because it does have that extremely low barrier to entry. I mean, it's free. It runs on like friggin' everything, and it outputs to an HTML file, which is instantly shareable. And even if you don't know anything about web development, you can just drag the file it outputs onto a server, and you're done. And there's also other places that will host Twine games for you, but at the same time, it's also a fairly robust tool if you want to break it, because if you can put custom JavaScript in there, custom CSS. Depression Quest itself sort of messes with the node structure to make it sort of act like an object-oriented system. There's 3 music tracks playing simultaneously on each page, and one of them is generated dynamically based on your depression levels. The other one's generated dynamically based on your current location and the type of encounter. The images are controlled. The animations of the images are controlled via variables that you store in the text. Like, you can do a lot of stuff with Twine.
Yeah, it is truly interesting, because I think it allows it sort of flattens the medium in a really interesting way to allow people to tell stories that I think part of the reason that you don't see a lot of this in more traditional games, if we're to use that term, is just finding ways to express that is difficult. And in writing, which is a way that a lot of us sort of express ourselves and sort of the daily struggles, is a natural extension that makes itself pretty clear to sort of talk about some ideas that maybe are we're not quite there to express them in sort of what we expect from more traditional games. But one of the things that some folks are mentioning to me is that they're like, "Oh, I'm so excited to buy it on Steam." But correct me if I'm wrong, but you're going to be offering this game for free, right?
Well, yes. Yes, I am going to be offering it for free. We will likely be putting a very unobtrusive off to the side on the first and probably last page. If you feel like supporting the game, here's like you can button, like an in-app thing, I guess. Primarily just because like this does go forward to making more projects like this, and I know I get frustrated when I see someone doing good work that I wish I could support. So I'm just trying to not be totally self-effacing and dorky about that. And I feel like, but outside of that, like, yeah, downloading it's going to be free. You never have to pay for it. I never want people to have to pay for this game ever. That's not what it's about. And if there's like, I would be devastated if there was somebody out there that could legitimately be helped by it or feel less alone for even 5 minutes that just didn't have like a couple bucks. Like, screw that. Like, if this can help, like, that's the whole reason I'm putting it on Greenlight, or I guess on Steam now, in the first place, was to sort of try and help anybody that could potentially be helped, which is already a weird thought. I never thought I could help people with the game. I never thought it would work, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's very important to, I think, the spirit of the game and to my own personal side of ethics to make sure there's no paywall and to make it as easy as possible for people to get it if it can help them. Even just it's just making it possible.
Yeah, I have a feature based on a conversation with Porpentine that I had a month or two back that's going up on the site this week, and that's one of the things that she was like very insistent about how the struggle between the fact that she wants to be a game developer, a game designer for a living, but contrasting that against wanting to release her work for free so that as many people can experience it as possible, because she's well aware of the struggles of being an independent person and trying to experience things, but also you need money to do those things. But finding that fine line where you can offer your stuff, but also hopefully if people are interested, giving back a little so you can keep doing it, seems like that's a pretty difficult struggle.
It absolutely is, especially if you want to do stuff that's like sort of trying to reach out and help people, or even just kind of weird, or even if you're just a new developer like I am. Like it's really, 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 really hard for me to accept or ask for anything from anybody at this point. But at the end of the day, like I still think that on some level I still want to be able to make my next game, right? I still think that is worthwhile, legitimately, which is a hard thing to say because I've struggled with some massive self-esteem issues. Fucking surprise, creator of Depression Quest has self-esteem issues.
What, it didn't solve everything? I thought once you get on Greenlight, then your life is just like a golden path to heaven.
Well, green path to heaven. Womp womp. But yeah, it's really hard to ask for money at all, or even be open to accept it, especially because it's just it seems to be that much more complicated. But I think I do still have some good games in me, and it's just accepting the fact that I do want to see them come out, and I do want to be able to keep doing this for the rest of my life. And I do like I have this horrible habit where I need to eat.
Weird.
And, like,
yeah, I got over that a while ago. I mean, do a little Google search. You can find a way to just stop eating.
I just like to master cleanse a lot. Yeah. So it's like trying to be okay with asking for that. Just asking, hey, please let me not work my face off like 80 hours a week for no dollars.
Well, that's
the American dream right there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a really high demand that you're asking for, this ability to consume food.
Yeah.
And it sounds like such a dumb thing, but like, because a lot of people don't have that problem. But I don't know. I think there's plenty of people who do. It's
yeah. I think it's certainly potentially assumed that if you're releasing games, you're an independent game designer. That why else would you be doing that unless you've got all those other things covered? And that's just not necessarily the case for a lot of folks.
No, it's not even remotely the case for a lot of folks. I mean, some of like I don't have like I know some people have like families and stuff that they can go back to if stuff gets really bad. I don't. I don't have like I can't go live with my parents for a little bit, or I don't even have some place I could go and be like, yo, do you mind like loaning me like a couple bucks for rent this month because I'm short. Like, I don't have that. So if I fail at this, I'm so massively screwed. You know? So, and then I'm so far from the only person who is in that situation. Like, there's plenty of people who don't have much of a safety net, and it sucks to see people, other people, struggle with that because it's like it shouldn't make you feel bad to be like, I worked really hard on this. Are you cool with helping me continue to do this? You know?
It seems like that's potentially one of the ways to solve this is this Patreon service that a lot of independent designers and writers, especially in games, it seems like are kind of hopping on where people sign up and say, look, we want to be patrons. We want to give you money if you create a thing, and you don't have to come out and ask for the money after you've released it. And so that sort of removes a bit of the barrier, which is that feeling of guilt when you've spent your time sacrificing to make something, and then you need the money afterwards so that you can go on to the next thing. Whereas Patreon just sort of suggests that, look, here's the money, here's what you're going to get, so you can budget it out, so you know how much time you have, and that when you do release it, shortly thereafter, you're going to get X amount of money that you've managed to raise and have people pledge. And I think that's a really interesting way to sort of maybe address some of these issues. But it also requires that, at some point you become a developer of prominence enough that people are willing to, pledge money to you, which is not everyone, certainly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky that like Patreon pays my basic needs right now. Like I'm almost up to the point where I can also afford food off of that. But like I get to make I make it's for my project Tidbites. I release a small game once every 2 weeks, like a sort of like a webcomic but playable.
Mm-hmm.
And I've wanted to do that for a while, and I had been working on it before Patreon became a thing, and then just being like, oh my god, wait, this is sustainable? I just thought I would be working for nothing. And I was like freaking out and being like, oh my god, I'm gonna have to do so much more work that's gonna screw up all of my other projects. It's gonna add like another 1 year onto my dev time for my main project right now. Like that would suck, right? But Patreon makes it so that I can do what I love and full on do it, which like when you're
you can plan, like you have a foundation to build off. It's like, okay, this part is covered.
Yeah.
I don't need to worry about that. Just like a regular paycheck allows you to budget around what you can make possible.
Yeah, and though that does make me really worried because it's like Patreon's still kind of a new and untested thing, and with a lot of stuff like this, there's bubbles, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm also simultaneously worried that people are just going to pull their pledges or whatever. That I'm going to be watching the ground underneath my feet slowly shrink on that one. So I'm not sure. It's risky to plan on that being there always, even past 1 month, right? Because it's just new. Who knows if like a lot of things start up and fail, and there's no telling if this is just another one of those things. I hope it's not, because like the amount of freedom and just basic security that people otherwise make on like sort of the fringes making weird stuff would lose is I feel like the industry would be way worse off for that. And that would really suck to see that just dry up and vanish. So it's hard, man, because like it's something that I'm looking at right now as something that just worst case scenario, planning on it not always being there or not even being there for that long, and just trying to get my main project going in the meantime. But even just having that runway, that's like it's been so ridiculously helpful in it, like just not even just for my mental state, but just like knowing that there's going to be money in your bank account like next week is not something that I've been afforded in my career as an independent game developer thus far. It's just, oh man, I hope just like doing a lot of this and just working your face off and never shutting up about your game. Whereas this actually, it feels like I have a job, like an actual capital J job, instead of the lunacy of screaming at small glowing rectangles for 80 hours a week and hoping something good comes out of it.
Well, and I imagine like not having that foundation, when you're sitting around trying to, be creative for lack of a better phrasing of it, but like, making a game, trying to come up with new ideas, like when you have in the back of your head all of these like basic need requirements that you're worried about, like, that seems like that would make trying to do that part really difficult. Like, how are you supposed to sit here and make the game that is supposed to solve the problems of these basic requirements when you don't know if this game is going to be any good and people are going to want it or buy it or pledge to it so that you can get all that other stuff. Like, it seems like the two ideas work against each other when you don't have that sort of basic foundation to work off of.
Plus your work suffers, because then it's like, can I really afford to do this specific kind of weird, untested thing? Or do I just have to scrap it and not push that envelope because at the end of the day, I still need to eat. I'm still, the bills are not going away. So I feel like having something like this in place is really good for opening it up for other people to experiment, or for people to experiment a bit more and be able to make some more risky decisions. Like tid bites would never happen. It wouldn't be sustainable at all. And I think there's absolutely room for weird little games that you interact with for like 1 to 5 minutes, get something out of them, move on.
Yeah, and it's been pretty amazing to watch the sort of like the response to when you managed to announce that you guys had made it through the Greenlight process, because I think it's a really important moment, but like for the service and what it means for the service to have a game like that, because I know you are not the only developer to have this problem when going through the Greenlight process of folks get very clingy to this idea of what is a game, what kind of games should that term should be allowed on something like Steam. And I think it's a really important moment for Depression Quest to get through, because I think for all sorts of reasons it represents a real widening of what's possible to be on that service, and the fact that Steam is looked at as a service that you can make serious money on, and a lot of developers have done that. And it's a little bit harder to do these days as more and more games get accepted, but nonetheless, it is a vitally important platform to the ecosystem, because you have 65 million people with linked credit cards that are able to support and buy these games from developers, and having something like Depression Quest on there, I think, is just a really encouraging development for other folks, knowing that they could also do that too, and that there can be different types of experiences on there, because there's nothing forcing you to add it to your Steam account.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Especially since it's free.
Yeah, right. But you see, this game isn't a game enough. I'm going to get mad about that, not the fact that there's just software and a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I constantly struggle with that. We've talked about that on previous shows. I tend to try and think that the argument being made there, when folks get really caught up in the "is this a game" argument, is that they think by certain games getting celebrated or put on a pedestal is that takes away from the games they like or the games that they want to be made. And I think that's a disingenuous argument. I don't think that's the case. I don't think if there were 100 Depression Quests, that means there aren't going to be 100 Call of Duties or whatever equivalent that that person is hoping for. But it's tough, because that Greenlight process on paper sounds like a really interesting way to have creators and players interact to reflect what's in the marketplace, but it also seems to have put a lot of power in the hands of folks to determine what is and isn't a game that I don't know if it's their call to make.
Well, I think the fundamental problem with the whole argument is where it seems to be deflecting. Like I don't think what is actually being argued is this a game or not. I think that the anxiety people feel over it probably comes from worrying about curation. Because the fact is, there is a buttload of games, which is awesome, and people want to be able to find them. And visibility is a big thing for indies. It's like a main currency. is visibility and exposure. And Steam used to be a bit a harder, since it's harder to get into. It means more and stuff like that. So it seems like the issue is less. Like the issue is one of finding a good way to curate content. Honestly, I'd love to see more games press step up to that, if that is like a thing that they'd be interested in going and doing, and being like, these are the games that we highly recommend based on these criteria. I think there's there could be a really good market, or I guess not market, but niche for that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Steam becomes more wide open. Because there's certainly room for tastemakers and content curators, and I don't think that should solely be left up to Steam, because it's just I'd like more custom. Just as a consumer, I'd like more customized game suggestions. You know, like if I'm like, oh, I liked how this person suggests weird stuff. It's like, oh, look, they have a list of weird stuff I should check out. Or I feel like reading or playing a game that I just get to do stupid crap like launch a jet into the moon. Like, I would love to see something like that, you know?
Now this is me trying to see what would be on what's on weirdstuff.com. Trying to see if that site is taken.
Well,
I have to imagine. Yep.
It's
Weird stuff is just
a bad idea to be going looking for explicitly weird stuff on the internet. You might be biting off more than you should here.
That's never a good rabbit hole to tumble down.
Weird Stuff is a recycling and remarketing of high technology since 1986. They just sell chipsets, used chipsets. That's not
really
nearly weird
boring.
enough, internet. When I go to a site called Weird Stuff, I want more than used computer parts.
You're playing with fire here, man.
I know. I'm not gonna. I won't do a Google image search. I feel like that.
Oh no.
I've got Safe Search off, and I think I want Safe Search on when I do a search for weird stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Zoe, it's been awesome having you on. I want what else are you working on? Where can people check out what you are doing and continue to follow you? Well past this morning show.
Well, I release a small little interactive thing or card game or whatever the hell, basically weird little things, once every 2 weeks over at Tidbytes, which is tidbyt.es, and that's always free. I'm also working on a more long-term project called It's Not Okay, Cupid, which is sort of a satirical look at the way that we form connections and relations on and online and offline, and how being more technologically connected than ever doesn't necessarily change the fact that we're really bad at actually interacting and connecting, and that's still a problem. And in other ways has made it way more accessible and awesome, and just sort of looking at the roles that being able to use the internet plays just in how we relate to one another and can get over our own isolation and figure ourselves out. So that's my more long-term project, and I'll be talking about it a lot more in months to come. But right now, I'm currently in the scheming phases of how I want to talk about that. But it's been in development. It is absolutely happening. It's not vaporware. It's not an idea. I am butt deep in chat logs right now. You can't see it. It's just words from clear down, just tons of words. So if you like games about feelings with stupid amounts of words in them, I'm your girl.
But
you are making games for me right now. That's what you're doing.
Butt deep in chat dialogues. See, you should put that. If you ever need to put together a resume again, just make sure and just expert at being butt deep in chat dialogues. I mean, that's
professional windbag.
Exactly. Alice, is there anything else you wanted to touch on?
No, I think I'm feeling pretty good right now.
Cool. And Zoe, is there anything else anything else you want to point people to before we wrap up, or anything else you wanted to mention?
I don't know.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
Sounds good.
That's perfect. You're also on Twitter. It's just at Zoe Quinn. Is that
Quinzel?
Quinzel?
There's another Zoe Quinn that has my username on everything.
Murder them.
I know, right? And she's not even using it. So it's at Zoe Quinn, Z-E-L. So Harleen Quinzel, Batman joke nobody ever gets that I thought.
No, I got it.
nobody ever gets that. Like, so many people think my actual last name is Quinzel, and I wish that I thought of something more clever, just added more N's at the end or something.
Awesome. Well, we really appreciate you getting up early over in Seattle to hang out with us.
Yeah, definitely haven't been awake for like 48 hours at this point.
Okay. All right. Hey, either way, I appreciate you staying up for 48 hours so that you could be in prime condition to join us on the show this morning. We sincerely appreciate it. Everyone, I highly recommend, whether it's something you're dealing with or not, Depression Quest is highly, highly recommended to check out, whether you do so on Steam when it's there or right now in its web form. It's an incredibly interesting experience that it will definitely leave you with a lot to think about at the end in ways that I wish more games did more often. So thank you for that, Zoe, and thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me on. It's always good to talk to you guys.
Cool.
Oh, wait. The button disappeared.